Hi everybody, it's Geordie from Geordie's Cards. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am here with episode 27 of my Shop Your Crafty Stash series, and today I'm creating two little cards which feature some gorgeous stamps from Hello Bluebird. This is the Jungle Littles stamp set, and I do have the coordinating dies, thank goodness, because we'll go into that a little bit more in detail here in a bit. I also have the Lawn Fawn Stitched Scallop Square Frame, that's a mouthful, Stitched Scallop Square Frames, which was also selected by my random number generator. So off camera, I have coloured and cut out a bunch of images. I coloured these with my Ohuhu Markers today. And I have cut out two of the largest square frames there, and I'm using the inside pieces as well. So I've cut this from Bristol Smooth Cardstock, and I'm going to do some ink blending on the inside pieces. So I have Twisted Citron, Mowed Lawn, and Lucky Clover Distress Oxide inks. So I was kind of inspired by Maureen Simon today. Maureen is an amazing crafter. If you haven't seen her, she is a member of the Lawn Fawn and I believe Sunny Studios design teams, and I think she's now on the Pretty Pink Posh design team as well. She's an amazing crafter. I have followed her for many, many years, and I am just always blown away by the cards that she creates. And she tends to create wonderful scene cards with a bunch of little elements and images and involved in them, and I just kind of decided to take a leaf out of her book today and try and create something similar. I don't think mine have turned out anywhere near as good as Maureen's do, but I think they're a lot of fun, and I had so much fun colouring all of my images. It was pretty painstaking to die cut everything out because there were literally tons of little leaves that I coloured in and then had to die cut out. But it was fine, you know, I just had a little crafting session and I really enjoyed it and just kind of went to town with it today. And because I was using this square frames die, I realised that my real estate was a little bit smaller than I would normally get on a normal size card or even a slimline card. So I decided to create two cards instead, because why not? And actually, when you're making one, why not make two? So I'm going to do exactly the same ink blending on both of my panels. I started out with my Twisted Citron in the center and then went darker out towards the edges. Now I'm going to do some splattering. This is something that Maureen Simon does a lot on her cards. So she normally goes with a darker and a lighter color. So for my darker, I'm using this Lucky Clover Distress Oxide ink, which is the darkest color that I've used, and I'm really going to town splattering all over with this. And then I will also splatter with just some white acrylic paint to add my kind of lighter specks. And if you watch Maureen Simon, this is, as I say, something that she does pretty regularly with all her cards, and they always turn out amazing. So in keeping with her, I'm going to do the same thing, just popping a little bit of that white acrylic paint on my block there. I will squirt it with some water and then I'll pick it up with my paintbrush and splatter it all over. Again, I'm going quite heavy-handed with the splatters and getting lots of that splatter detail in there. It just creates a little bit of interest in the background, and I really like the effect of it. So as I say, I kind of went a little bit crazy. I think because this card kind of, the opportunities with this combination of stamp and die set kind of, it was a little bit more free, shall I say, than some of the other combinations I've had with my Shop Your Crafty Stash series. So I was kind of just able to create a really fun scene, and I haven't done a really full scene for a long time, and I just really felt in the mood for doing lots of colouring and cutting out and then kind of assembling everything together. So you can see I have a ton of little images here, and they all come from the same stamp set. I haven't used anything else today, literally just the stamp and die sets that I've used. And I just really went to town. With my little sloth there, you'll see I did just use a craft knife to cut around his little arms so that he could hang off the vine, and I thought he looked really, really cute. So my sloth is going to be on one card, my monkey is going to be on the other. And then, yes, I realized that koalas and tigers don't really belong together, and probably lions and elephants don't really belong in the jungle unless it's an Asian elephant, I guess. But you know what? This is cardland, so anything goes. And then I was going to try and lay everything out and figure out where everything was going to go, and I just thought that was going to be so fiddly. I just decided to crack on and kind of layer leaves together, make little kind of piles of leaves, if you like, that I could then kind of place all around my card edges and yeah, just kind of fill out the scene. So I just thought that this was the easiest way of doing it rather than trying to lay everything out and figure out where everything was going to go beforehand. It's maybe being a little bit more risky, but it worked for me and I just found it the easiest way to go about things today. I did have an idea roughly where I wanted my sentiment to go, and I am probably living a little bit dangerously by leaving the stamping of my sentiment until last. But I kind of wanted to get all of my little elements down before I did stamp my sentiment because I didn't want to end up trying to kind of mash things around it. So I thought this was the easiest way of doing it, but yes, it is living slightly dangerously today. But why not? So I am just kind of keeping my larger animals off the card for now, and I will put them on the very last. But I just wanted to kind of place them on every now and then to make sure that I was putting things in the right spot. So in the stamp set, as I've said, there are a ton of leaf images, and I have colored all of them out multiple times. And there are tons of tiny little leaves, which I have tried to group together to kind of create a more a fuller leaf look, if that makes sense. But I just really went to town with this one today, and I had so much fun doing it, and that's kind of what it's all about. You will see that I am reusing some cardstock that I had printed some images out on. I always like to kind of use up all of my scraps and bits and pieces, and I was just using the back of that cardstock to stamp on and colour, and you can't see any lines through the front side, so it works well. And buying cardstock can get expensive, so it's nice to be able to reuse little scraps and pieces that have had other purposes and maybe not worked out. So I am literally just placing all of these leaves kind of around the edges, mostly around the edges. I'm not really popping anything in the middle because I'm going to have my little critters there in the front center, and as I say, my sentiments need to go on here as well. But I'm just kind of figuring out where everything is going to go. Finishing up with these gorgeous flowers, which I've coloured this nice bright red. I just thought the nice pop of red really contrasted with all of that green that I have used. And then I have a few other little leaves that I kind of want to try and squeeze in somewhere. I thought I've coloured them in and cut them out. I might as well use them. And I did end up using pretty much everything, I think. So it was a good use of all of my little leaves. Leaves, even not leaves, leaves. Okay, I'm really struggling to speak today. And then I'm just going to finish up with this little bunch here, and then I'm going to figure out my sentiment. Before I do that, I'm going to trim the edges. So some of my little leaves were hanging off the edges, and I just wanted to trim them down to make them square so that they will fit inside those frames that I have cut out as well. So just wanted to make sure that that was all even all the way around the edges. Okay, so here is my sentiment. I am going to do a little bit of masking with my sentiment because it is a bit too long to fit in. So I'm going to put one part of the sentiment and then the other part underneath it. So I believe it says "Go wild, it's your day," or "It's your day, go wild." So I'm going to stamp the "It's your day" first and then the "Go wild" underneath it. So I'm just masking off the part that I don't want, stamping with my Versafine Onyx black ink so I can try and get a nice crisp clear impression of that sentiment. I will go back and stamp it a couple of times just to make sure that that is nice and crisp and clear, and then I will stamp out the second part of it. And I'm using the same sentiment on both of my little cards here today. I just thought that it was a cute little sentiment and worked nicely with all of these fun images. And they are going to be roughly similar positions on the card, just kind of accommodating the images and things that I'm using for each individual card. So the position of the sentiment will change ever so slightly, but not a huge amount. So as I say, just stamping out a couple of times so that I get a nice, crisp, clear impression. And I will do the other one off camera so that you don't have to sit through watching all of that again. But as I say, it was living a little bit dangerously, but I thought it was worth it to try and place all of my images down first. So here are those frames that I cut earlier. I've added some foam tape all the way around the edges of these, and I'm going to place them down onto my ready-made card. Now, I had a bit of trouble getting it in the right place. So I ended up pulling it all up. Thankfully, I hadn't pressed it down too hard. So I pulled it all up and I popped my frame down, so face down on my table with the sticky foam tape facing upwards, and then popped my card base on top. And that was a lot easier than trying to figure out how it goes, because my scallops are going to kind of go over the edge of the card. So you won't actually see the straight edges of the card underneath, you just see the scallops. So it was easier to do it this way around than the other way that I tried initially. So do the same for both of these, and then once that is done, all that is left is to pop my ink blended panel into the middle of this card here, and then pop my two little other images on top. So initially I had thought about doing popping these larger images up on some foam squares, but then I decided against it, and I thought I would just pop them down flat instead with some liquid glue. I thought that worked fine, and that little frame then just pops out and kind of draws your eye into the card and makes everything stand out in the center. So that's pretty much it for today. There was a lot of colouring and cutting out involved, but other than that, they're pretty easy cards to make, and I had so much fun with them. I really, really enjoyed creating this type of card, which is something, as I say, I haven't done for a long time really, and I'm so happy. I'm really enjoying my Shop Your Crafty Stash series at the moment. I'm getting so much fun from it, and definitely using up some products that I haven't used for a long, long time. This stamp set was one that I had to have, and I remember very clearly thinking, oh my goodness, that is the cutest stamp set. I'm going to use it so much. I probably used it twice, and I've had it for a number of years. So I'm really pleased to be pulling it out again and making use of it. And isn't it that just so cute? Such a sweet little card, or two cards that I've made. So I'm really happy with these ones. I hope you enjoyed this one today. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to my channel. I'd love to see you come back again. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining me. Take care.